Dear students, welcome to another interesting session, which is on the concept of controversial issues in social studies. I believe you will enjoy this session. Before we start, let's quickly outline some of the objectives for this session. One, by the time we finish, you should be able to, one, define the concept controversial issues. Two, identify at least two types of controversial issues in social studies. Three, state at least two conditions for selecting controversial issues for social studies lessons. Then list at least one of four examples of controversial issues in social studies. What comes to your mind when we say controversial issues? Can you identify with this concept? Can you define this concept, controversial issue? Controversial issues are basically issues that have to do with people having different views and opinions about it, of which it will be difficult for two or more people to come to conclusion or agreement. Basically, that is my understanding of controversial issues. What about you? How do you understand it? Let's look at some actors or scholars' view concerning the topic controversial issues. Clark, 1973, is of the view that any topic about which people hold strong differing views can be considered as controversial issues. As I've already indicated, controversial issues are issues that people have strong divergent views about, and they are open-ended. Doesn't appear to be what? Conclusive. On the other hand, Jarolem sees controversial issues as those problems, subjects, questions about which there are differences of opinion, for which there are no easy resolution. People can argue from morning till evening. They will never come to any resolution of the topic or problem under discussion. They all have their views based on their values and their beliefs. That is controversial issues. Many people have defined controversial issues in a different way. We will not be able to go through all of them. We have looked at two. So, in summary, controversial issues first can be said to be issues or topics or subjects or problems or questions which are social in nature, and recognition, the discussion of which bring about what? Divergent opinion. Mostly controversial issues are social in nature. It affects people. It affects you, it affects me. So that is why I have my own view about the problem. You also have your own view about it. Then two, the divergent opinions result from subjective views. It's not based on mostly any objective view. It's always based on subjectivity. Then finally, consensus is never reached. People will never come to a consensus as far as controversial issues are concerned. Then it is no more a controversial issue. There will always be disagreement. Basically, the issues our decisions on controversial issues are not based only on fact, but about what attitude and what beliefs. There are a number of instances where we can cite issues that are controversial. For example, we can talk about patrilineal and matrilineal forms of inheritance. So we can pose the question, which one is ideal? Of course, there will be divergent views. People will go for patrilineal, others will go for matrilineal, especially where one practice or belief in one. If I'm a patrilineal inclined, I'll go for patrilineal. The same way, if I'm matrilineal inclined, I'll go for matrilineal. There is no way I'll be convinced to change my stand. There are other instances where we can cite issues of controversy. For example, in chieftaincy, do chiefs have to engage in partisan politics? Do you agree or disagree? It can be a controversial issue. Yeah, there are thoughts chiefs will be able to engage in politics, and others are of the view that no, chiefs must not engage in active or partisan politics. What about abortion? Should we allow abortion to be carried out? Somebody with biblical conviction will never agree. There are others who are liberal who will agree abortion should be allowed. Sex education. There are a number of examples that we can cite as controversial issues. I hope we can give other examples apart from what we have here. Try and let's see. Let's now turn our attention to the kinds or forms of controversy. We have factual controversies. This is born out of disagreement over facts of the case. For example, what caused the overthrow of the first government in the first republic? In other words, what caused the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah? So, in order to be able to help your students deal with the factual agreement and all that, you can assist them where and how to gain relevant reference source materials. The other type of controversy is definitional controversy. This is as a result of disagreement as to whether what a particular term or concept implies. For instance, when we talk about sexual harassment, people ask what constitutes sexual harassment. Somebody, a touch on the shoulder can constitute sexual harassment. Is it true? What do you think? Somebody, a continuous look at somebody in a provocative manner can constitute sexual harassment. So people will disagree over what constitutes sexual harassment. The other form of controversy is value controversies. It is a disagreement about what is most important or what is right or what is wrong or what is worthwhile, that kind of thing. For instance, sex education. Should we teach it at the primary level? People have the view at the primary level, the children are not mature enough, and there are others who have the view it should start with them because there is a saying catch them young and they'll be yours forever. So definitely people will disagree. So what conditions will allow us to select controversial issues? In other words, conditions for selecting controversial issues. 1. Relevance. The issue that we want to discuss as controversial must be relevant and relevant to the effect that it will contribute to the attainment of the objectives we have set for the lesson. There should be a relationship. We should not just talk about the issue because we want to talk about controversial issues. It should be related to the objectives that we have set for the lesson. Then, second, we have to look at its suitability. So, is it suitable for a particular age group? Do the learners have the ability to discuss? Will it meet their maturity level? Do they have enough experience? Is it of interest? Will they understand the issue very well? For instance, if we are talking about abortion, can we talk about abortion in class 1, say class 2? Do they understand what is abortion? Is it of interest to them? Do they have the mental capacity to talk about it? So these are issues that we have to consider. The third condition is the utility. Is it going to be of value, practical value to the learners or students? It should enable the students to make well-informed decisions on matters related to the said controversies. For example, traditional custom should enable students to behave or act in ways that are consistent with traditional custom of any community in which they find themselves. So whatever controversial issue we have selected, the learners should benefit the learners. They should be able to apply it in their daily activities. Then availability of materials. Do learners have the resources, adequate enough material, reading material, resources to be able to get information to discuss controversial issues in a class? So we have to make a lot of materials available to learners. We have to guide them where they can get information to be able to contribute to the controversial issues. So far, we have looked at what controversial issues are, and also we have been able to identify kinds or forms of controversial issues. And lastly, we looked at the criteria for selecting controversial issues. I hope the session is worthwhile. Before we move on to another session, let's look quickly at the following self-assessment questions. Find controversial issues in your own words. Identify two kinds of controversial issues. State two criteria for selecting controversial issues. Identify three examples of controversial issues. I hope you have fared well. Don't be discouraged. Press on. Thank you.